Welcome to part 2 of the Precious Metals lingerie set. Sew along with me as we make these Tonikas.
Let's start with the pattern adjustments for the Tonika Briefs. I was originally going to use the Maxine pattern by Evie Lalouve, but the size range didn't allow for my mannequin, so I've moved on to using the Tonika Briefs, which is a free pattern by Madalynne Intimates. I'm making the size 3X, which is what my mannequin measured to, and here are the pattern adjustments I'll be making. The pattern allows for a wide plush elastic waistband, which I'm not using, so I've added the width of that elastic, 1.5 inches, to the top of the pattern. The pattern should finish at this orange line here, but I've added the 1.5 inches above that to keep the high-waisted style that I'm after. With the front pattern piece, I held it up to the mannequin to roughly draw in the style lines that I want to create. So I roughly marked the centre piece here above the pubic bone, and then these side panels where the two fabrics meet. So I'll rule those up straight. I need to remember to add my seam allowances here and here to join the two fabrics. There will also be a seam allowance centre front as I'm not cutting this piece on the fold. The crotch piece will still be cut on the fold. Here are my new front pattern pieces with my new style lines and seam allowances added in. I haven't needed to touch the back piece nor the gusset piece, which looking at it I'm not too sure how it fits in as it seems the wrong size, but we shall find out. I'll use the embroidered tulle for the side panels. This middle section will be a stretch mesh and a black stretch satin for the gusset. Here are the pieces all cut out, referencing my sketch. I've got a stretch satin for the crotch piece, the stretch mesh for the middle, and the sides are the embroidered tulle. The back piece is also stretch mesh. Looking at my sketch to sort out the order of construction, I'll sew the centre seam first and the strappy detail, attach that to the crotch piece. Then I'll work on the panel seams here, followed by attaching the front to the back. I don't need these side pieces yet. I'm working on the middle section first, popping my two pieces right sides together and pinning the centre seam. I like to double my pins when working with fine fabrics as it just makes it more secure. You could sew this seam with an overlocker, but I've decided to sew it on my normal machine with a slight zigzag, as I don't want the seam peeking out under one side of the strappy elastic detail. My slight zigzag stitch still retains stretch, and this means I can open out my seam allowance on both sides, zigzag top stitch it down and trim any excess. This seam is now nicely symmetrical and will stay hidden beneath the strap. In my drawing, I have the centre strap with the little heart slider and it attaches to a ring about here. So I'll just allow myself an extra amount at the top. I need to tack the bottom of the elastic to the centre of my front panel and then stitch the panel onto my crotch piece. I'm going to have to sew along one side, pivot and then sew down the other side. I've attached the elastic at the bottom and now I need to add the crotch piece. I'm going to pin together the first side of the crotch triangle to the centre front. The point of the triangle needs to reach the middle of the elastic. I'm going to sew this and stop at that centre point where the two seams would meet. I've sewn down this side, stopped in the middle, and now I'm going to just clip into that point to make it easier to turn the crotch to meet the other side of the front. You can do this on your machine in one go if that is easier, keeping your needle down at the point. I'm pinning the rest of the seam together and will then sew it. The crotch piece is now attached to the centre front along both sides, and then I went ahead and top stitched just to keep the seam nice and flat and crisp. It's a wee bit of a tricky intersection to do. If you're struggling and just want to square it off, then that would look good as well. My next task is to attach the side panels. I'm going to overlock that, and then I've got a complete front all ready to go. I have overlocked on the side panels and I will top stitch down both sides. If I reference my sketch, I've got the skinny straps with their adjusters here. So I'm going to measure out roughly how long I need those to be so I can make them up. The central ring is approximately here. They'll have an adjuster, so overlapped about this much and coming out to the edge with a little bit of an extra allowance. So I'll cut two pieces this length and we'll stitch a slider on the ends. So this is the part of the video where I made a horrible boo-boo and accidentally recorded the in-between bits instead of me actually making stuff. But thankfully it is after all the tricky things and we've just got the easy bits left. Here you can see I've attached the heart slider onto the centre strap and sewn on the central ring. I've then threaded through my adjustable side straps. If you want more information on how I sew straps, check out part 1 of this video. Here I'm just checking that my sliders are an equal distance away from the centre ring, making my strap lengths the same. I'm then going to pin the edges of my strap to the side seams of the brief, 10mm down from the top edge so I can allow for my fold over elastic. It's time to attach the finished front piece to the back at the crotch seam. Remember that pesky crotch liner piece? Well, it still doesn't really fit anywhere, so I'll make my own piece using the front pattern piece as a guide. Here is the new crotch liner cut from organic bamboo knit, and now it lines up nicely with the front piece. To assemble, I place the back piece right sides together with the front piece, and then the crotch piece right side down on top of that, lining up the seam edges. Now that seam is sewn, I used my overlocker, but you could use a straight stitch as well. We can secure the crotch piece to the inside of the front piece with a few pins. This will keep it aligned while we sew the fold over elastic around the leg holes. I've chosen to sew the fold over elastic in one pass. My technique is I'll stretch the elastic a fraction, line it up to the cut edge of the fabric, so stretch, but, fold and then sew. Stretch, but, fold, sew. I'm using a lightning stitch set 3 long and 1.5 wide and sewing near the open edge of the fold over elastic. How fabulous are these looking? The fold over elastic wraps around the leg holes. Now I'm going to place the right sides together and sew up the side seams with the overlocker. I'll do one side, then add the fold over elastic for the waist, and then sew up the other side. And make sure not to twist it as we turn it over. We don't want a twisted bottom. For the very end here, I will baste on my sewing machine just to make sure that I get it lined up perfectly. Then I'll sew up the rest of the length with my overlocker. I've sewn one side seam with the overlocker, added fold over elastic around the waistband before sewing up the second side seam. Both side seams are sewn now, so we are pretty much finished. I just need to tie in the overlocker tails. I thread them back through the stitching with a darning needle and top stitch the seam to secure. Ta-da! The Tonika Briefs are all finished and it's time to try them on the mannequin.
And it's a set. We've got a black beauty bra and Tonika Briefs made from the Precious Metals kit, which is sold out, but the gorgeous shawl fabric is still available in the shop. Link in the description box. Join me next time and I'm going to be sewing up a Shelley bra from the Raindrops and Roses April